Hello.
Hello.
Peter's all like, who's talking first today?
I know. I was waiting for you to crack a move then.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. How you doing, Peter?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. We already have a comment from, you know what? I think this is Cody. I could be wrong.
No, it comes up like this. I hope it is Cody. I believe it is because I don't have many friends. No, I'm kidding. If it's you, Cody, or anyone else,
no.
I know. So, no, how's your week been, Kathy? Or you 2 weeks because we weren't on last week.
Yeah, we weren't on last week. We took a little vacay there, a 1 week vacay, and but we'll be back. We do not have our Lynda tonight. She is off ghost hunting for the next month, I think until the end of October, right?
Yes. Yeah, she is. I think she's coming back at the end of October, just after Halloween. So stay tuned for that. So yeah, no, we've lost one of the links out of our chain, but hopefully we can drag this thing along without
her. I'm sure we can. I think we can fumble through. Hopefully she'll come back with some good stories and, interesting tales of her adventures. And how's your week been?
2 weeks. It's been very eventful, very busy. I have we've set up a number of we've set up a venture for Halloween. We've got a fundraiser at a local ranch. It's called the O'Keefe Ranch in Vernon. We're going to be doing a public presentation there along with some public investigations at Halloween. And also as well, we're due to go to the local theatre in Kamloops tomorrow to do a 6-hour investigation called the Sagebrush Theatre, who it's allegedly haunted by a guy called Albert, who was the first guy to be hung in Kamloops in the early 19th century. So
oh, wow.
We're going fishing for him. So hopefully we're going to reel him in. But no, we'll see how it goes. Besides that, just been busy around the house, just work as well. Never a dull moment in healthcare, and it's just been busy, I guess. Been working on the well on a couple of pieces of equipment that I'm going to be test driving tomorrow as well.
Oh,
so that'd be fun.
Can you reveal?
I didn't bring it on the show, unfortunately, but what I've done, I've got a doll. Like my daughter had one of the Paw Patrol dolls, and I've basically I put like a motion detection sensor on it, and there's also a geophone on there as well, so it will pick up vibration at a certain frequency. And then there's also a motion set camera inside of it as well. So I've basically crammed all of that inside a stuffed doll, and I'm trying to sew it up at the moment. And it's all like eyes are all. It kind of looks like it's demented because they've got like little lights coming off the top of his head and stuff like that. But it's going to get there eventually. And I'm just working on that at the moment. And I'm jacking a couple of radios for friends of mine. I'm making them some spirit boxes as well. So. It's busy on that front as well. So, yeah, no, it's good. So, anyway, this week's guest.
Annabelle behind you.
the little. I've got like a mini version, and it was given to me by a friend of mine, and she got kind of creeped out after the Annabelle movie, so I commandeered it from her. But yeah, it's a new addition to it, and then there's also the Ghostbuster light on the top there, which my kids got me for a present a little while ago, and I forgot to put it on display. So that's a new addition as well.
Funny story. I actually have a Raggedy Ann doll that my dad had given us when we were kids, and it looks just like Annabelle, and it sits in my living room. And I used to have a roommate, here, and what I would do is move it around and freak him out. And he was scared of everything. He was scared of his shadow. So it was brilliant. I would just be like, oh, did that doll move? Oh, did that doll move?
Oh dear. Yeah, I remember your roommate, and he was quite the character, wasn't he? But
yeah, he was the scared little thing. It was quite funny.
He was. Anyway, this week's guest, a very good friend of mine, and he reigns in from Ottawa, Ontario. He's a very good friend of mine, a seasoned paranormal investigator. Let's bring him on the show. His name is John Moore.
Hello,
hi, guys.
John.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Glad to be here.
Good. So how you been? How's Ontario going?
That's not too bad. It's been a nice warm summer, so we were able to get out a little bit more. COVID's kind of been holding us back from doing residential cases and stuff, but we've been able to get out, do some locations, and work with the people we can work with when we can. So
nice.
We're all looking forward to the day when this is over and we can actually get back to doing what we do. So.
Well, it appears without Kathy piping in about her visions about COVID, it appears that we have quite a dark cloud in Canada in regards to COVID, when the rest of the world seem to be going back to normal, and we're still stuck in the dark ages. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Moving on quickly.
Hang on, can I mute Kathy? So so John, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm originally from the east coast of Canada, New Brunswick, a small town out there called Perth Andover. I had my first experiences when I was 8 years old, growing up in the family funeral home. Oh yeah, it's like people always say I was born into this job.
Literally.
Yeah. Actually, the first apparition I saw, I was 8 years old, and it was my great grandfather, believe it or not. I was standing one night when I was 8, waiting for my dad to finish after a wake. He was cleaning in the chapel area. I was waiting in the foyer. I looked downstairs, and downstairs is where we had the casket showcase, and there was another room off to the back where bodies would be kept if we had an extra body waiting for the wake at the end of another night, kind of like a makeshift morgue. But I saw an elderly gentleman wave to me and smile, and I waved back, said hi, and then he walked off. My dad heard me, came out, like, who are you talking to? Because at this point, the funeral was supposed to be empty. I said, well, there's a man downstairs. So my dad went down to find out, was this one of the guests who got lost looking for a washroom or something? And there was nobody there. So we didn't think anything of it until later on. I was probably 10 or 12, and my grandmother was showing me old pictures of the family. And lo and behold, one of the pictures came up, and I pointed at it and said, that's the man I saw in the funeral home. Turns out that was my great grandfather who actually opened that funeral home.
Wow.
Yep. And that building, to this day, I've spoken to some people that work there. It's now an adult learning annex. It closed in the late 80s, early 90s, but people to this day still get weirded out in the basement area. One of my friends actually had an office down there, and she says she always felt like somebody was watching. And the other room that always creeps them out is the copy room. Now, besides the fact that the copy room has all the EMF from the copy and all the copy machine and all that, it's very tiny. But when I told her it was the old embalming room, they actually went and moved the copy room.
That's awesome.
How did that help you mentally, like growing up in a funeral home?
How did that help you mentally?
Well, I was always referred to as the creepy kid, obviously. Yeah. But no, it didn't bother me, honestly. Like today, I do what I do because it helped me get used to that. Like growing up around that, like being around death and seeing those emotions on a daily basis, you kind of get used to it. I don't want to say you get immune, but you do kind of accept it a bit more than someone who hadn't had that situation, right?
Right.
Like, a kid who grows up around, let's say, like an automotive shop, they'll have an aptitude to go towards that type of thing, and for them, that's just normal. For me, being around death and the funeral home and all those things, it was just normal. But no, mentally, I'm about as sane as you can be to do this job. So.
So when did you decide, like, was it a natural progression into exploring the paranormal?
A little bit. That piqued my interest, but at that time I was very young, so I really didn't follow much of it. When I turned 15, though, we were living in another house. It was a house called Mr. Farmer's house. Over my town is, at the time, I think, don't quote me on this, but I believe it was 2,500 people in the town, and they had over 2,000 reports of the spirit of Mr. Farmer being seen in the front window of the house. People that had lived there had seen him frequently. And when I was 15, I fell asleep watching Hockey Night in Canada one night in the living room on the couch. I woke up, and when I woke up, Mr. Farmer was in the window behind me. So I turned around and saw him, and he was known for just staring out that picture window. That's where most people saw him when they're driving by.
Right.
But he always put his hand out and touched the window.
Yeah.
And until the house was demolished, that handprint was always there. We washed that window 1,000 times.
Yeah.
My wife at the time, she was with me, and we cleaned the handprint off, and I told her, watch the window. She washed it for 10 minutes, didn't see the handprint. She turned to look at me and said, what am I looking for? And I told her, turn around and look now. The handprint had returned.
Wow.
So that was kind of it was a pretty creepy experience. And there were a lot of people that had interactions with him. One gentleman I know, his parents were mixed race. His father was Native, his mother was white. And Mr. Farmer grew up in a time when that was frowned upon.
Right.
He actually frequently had Mr. Farmer attack him because of it.
Wow.
So yeah, it was.
Like, what did he do? Did he attack him physically, or was this more of an emotional kind of attack?
No, he said he was attacked physically. The story that he relayed to me was that he would wake up and Mr. Farmer would be sitting on the end of his bed, and he would actually proceed to slap him and hit him and things like that. Or if he was in the shower or something, he would feel someone hit him.
Right.
So this is what, like I said, this is the story that I was told. I did see Mr. Farmer, but I never had any experience with him being aggressive towards me. So.
Right. Which, thankfully. How long were you living in that house for? Hello, welcome back, Peter.
Sorry, my internet's just like totally died in the whole house. So I apologize for that.
No, we're paranormal investigators. We're used to technical glitches, aren't we?
I know. I can't blame it on the ghost. That's for sure.
Yeah. No, we ended up living in that house. Oh, I think we were there close to 10 years before the flood damage actually made it. The house was almost unlivable, and we ended up having to. My grandparents bought a house and moved at that point. So.
Right. Okay.
And then after that is when I actually, at 15, I was able to gain access to the internet because the internet was just coming out. This was about 95. Right. So I started gathering every book I could get my hands on from like Lloyd Auerbach, Hans Holzer, parapsychologists, Ed and Lorraine Warren, all these people that are legends in the field. And I was just researching and reading everything I could get my hands on to try and figure out, what had I seen, what was going on. And thankfully, because growing up in the funeral home, my family was used to this type of stuff. So they actually were very encouraging of it.
Which is good. They didn't dismiss it or to kind of push it aside or anything like that. Yeah. So, and you started your own team, is that correct?
Yeah, I started my own team a few years ago here in Ottawa. Before that, I worked mostly freelance and research alone. But I formed a team in 2012 here in Ottawa, just because I had seen so many teams forming, and every team I saw, they all literally just followed what you see on TV. The monkey see, monkey do. And none of them actually knew the science behind it. They didn't know why they were doing certain things. And like, I joined a couple of these teams on investigations. And for me, it was just like, what are you doing? Like, why are you doing this? Like, this is not the way this goes. So it got to the point where I got fed up and I formed my own team, which was going to do it the way that I wanted to do it and the way that I feel it should be done, which, you follow the proper procedures, you know what you're using. Like, we don't use tools that we don't understand, that we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you more old school then to some degree?
To some degree, yeah. Okay. I would say I'm more old school. Like a lot of the new gadgets and things. Like I know Pete was talking about the geophone a little bit earlier and stuff like that. A lot of those things I don't usually play with much, but we have had some of them we've started to use a little bit more just to see what happens.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I prefer to stick to the old school, the tried and true. Like, I still walk around with a bag of flour, drizzle it where I go.
Yeah.
I still use the pre-1980s Geiger counter from time to time. I have, obviously, I still use EMF because that one is one that has been proven.
Right.
So, but
I
yeah,
like
no,
temperature gauges too.
yep, no, I use, I have a
Yeah.
few of those.
Yeah. And the temperature gauges was always one of my favorites. So
For me personally, I love the FLIR thermals. Like, I utilize a FLIR 1 when we do our investigations. That's the attachment for your cell phone.
right.
Mainly because it's like $10,000 for the other one, and well,
Yeah.
That's the same one. I've got a similar. I've got the alternative model for my phone, and I've over the years I've moved away from EMF because of the fact that there's so many variables involved. But I've been on like the temperature and like heat like since day one, and because obviously it's controlled. You can see you're aware of variances when the temperature changes and stuff like that. But no, interesting.
Yep, no, with us with the EMF, we usually use it as more of an environmental. Like,
Yep.
when you're doing your baselines, you'll take your environmentals. We'll do that. And when we're doing a private home case, we'll actually bring our EMF meters and we'll go through and we'll check to see if there is EMF, because we all know EMF can affect individuals in different ways, and it can cause hallucinations, nausea, all these things that people believe to be paranormal. So we will always go in and use those to see if that's a possible cause for what's going on. But after that, generally when my team and I go out into the field, we'll have an EMF meter with us just to see if we do see anomalous spikes. But one of the meters we use is actually it has a weighted function. So we will set the EMF meter so that what the baseline is will actually be registered as 0. So then we watch for any decent level spikes. But at the same time, we all know if it's too high a spike, it's obviously something man-made, like a cell phone or radio or something like that. It's really fun to do that with the rookies, though, and watch them freak out.
We actually had a house a few years back where people were complaining about hallucinations, seeing dark shadows, the whole bit. Everybody was getting sick. It was a rental house, and they had several renters, and so we interviewed as many renters as we could to get their side of the story first. And the owners had wanted us to do an investigation. And I tell you, we walked in and we had a lady that's like a walking EMF reader. I swear, every time if there's EMF around, she gets a headache, she's nauseous, she turns pale, like it just affects her. And sure enough, there was massive spikes. And, it turned out that there was actually a short somewhere that was causing, something. And we said to them, like, you get the fire department out here or get an electrician first before we do anything. And if that fixes it, we think that this could be possibly, not only maybe the house causing stuff, but it could also have to do with this happening, because there was a high EMF reading that was coming, like beyond, like it would have gone off the meter type of, and it was crazy. Yeah. And sure enough, they said, that it was close to having an electrical fire. So
no, we've had a few cases like about, I'd have to say probably about 80% of the times when we go into a house, we find some sort of EMF like that. And it's actually really funny. We went into one place where they mentioned around a certain area, they had activity, like it was where the activity was centered.
Yeah.
And this was in the kitchen. But in the basement, we found massive EMF by the water heater. And we told them, call an electrician. The electrician came in and he said, oh, that stuff means nothing. It's garbage. Obviously, the guy, he's an electrician. He's looking at it logically and he's thinking, you just watch one too many ghost hunting shows. But lo and behold, he did find there was a poor ground on that water heater. And once it was fixed, everything was fine.
Yeah, we had we had an investigation a few years ago, and I'm an electrician and plumber by trade back in the UK. And the things about EMF, it's proven that people do have side effects from EMF, but people have different susceptibility levels. So people are more sensitive to it than others. And we went to one case where it was basically like the woman was complaining of headache, nausea, and stuff like that. They weren't really like the only person that really complained about paranormal activity was a daughter. And obviously that stage it's affected the daughter because they're younger and stuff like that more than what it did with the adult. But we did I kind of looked around the house, and you do your baselines, what like you said, John, and stuff like that. But there was a variable in the fact that above my chest height you'd get 0 EMF, but below my chest height it was up to about 2026. So it was like a very, very high level. So cut long story short, we did investigations. I asked someone to switch the meter off in the cupboard, so we turned the meter off, still the same level. So it was totally weird. But anyway, after further investigations, we went back to the meter and found out that the ground was missing from the meter, and it was causing that level because the meter wasn't grounded. And it constitutes a lot to obviously people thinking paranormal activity actually happen. And there's other things in in houses as well, like carbon monoxide and stuff like that as well, which yourself, John, that it's not put into the equation when people go into people's houses. And we're not supposed to be electrical engineers or gas fitters or anything like that. It's just a common knowledge of finding out these things are rooting the problem out as investigators, I guess.
Yeah. Like the way I prefer to look at it is when we get called into a house, we're not there. Like everyone says they want to debunk things. Personally, I hate that word because debunk, the definition of debunk is to disprove. And when I go into a house and somebody tells me something's happening, I'm not there to disprove what's happening to them because obviously something's happened. That's why they've called me. When I go in, my job is to find an answer to what is causing what they're experiencing.
Right.
And about 90% of the time, as you said, Pete, it's electrical issues.